Last night, a protest over the district attorney's decision to not prosecute officers involved in the fatal shooting of Bernardo Palacios turned into vandalism and some violence.
Salt Lake City Police Chief Mike Brown joining us in studio to discuss how police are handling these protests, what tactics they might consider. And Chief Brown, I want to begin by asking about how your officers are doing. I understand at least one was injured and taken for treatment.
Yes, thanks for asking. One sustained an injury, non-life-threatening injury to their leg, but they're doing well. But they are out of the workplace right now, so we're hoping for the best there.
You know, your officers really have been tested and tried time and time again, Chief. How are they dealing mentally and physically with what's been happening in our state over the past few weeks? Well,
it's been a heavy lift. I mean, since May 30th, we have had over 40 days of protest in Salt Lake City. And every day, they don their uniforms, their badge, and they go out to do their job. And they do it because they want to protect, number one, those that are here to protest and exercise their First Amendment right, but also the citizens that are involved in the downtown businesses, those that come down here. So it's a lot of work. It's taxing, but that's what we do.
When you get into the area of civil disobedience protests, there's that line where things get destructive and violent. How do you make the call on when to step in when something like vandalism is happening? Because at some point, the use of physical force becomes a question when you're facing a crowd like that. So how are you making those decisions? Do you feel like you've made the right ones, and what will you do going forward?
I think we have. Like I say, we in Salt Lake City have for many years made sure to protect people's First Amendment right to come down and protest. But you need to understand that means peacefully. When you cross the line, it does not give you this peaceful protest, or your First Amendment does not give you the right to do vandalism or to inflict violence on police officers. That is just not going to be tolerated.
So just to break in there, then how do you make that decision in terms of, you know, if someone's throwing paint or something like that at a public building, do you step in physically to stop that? How do you make that call when you're in this kind of hot situation?
Well, you have to have trust in your incident management team, and I do. They're good commanders, they're good officers, they're led very well, and they're trained to the highest standards in the country. But you have to give them the intent and the direction. And when these situations go from a peaceful protest to vandalism or violence, they have to have the ability to step in. And that's what we saw last night. Sadly, we'd had, you know, night after night of peaceful protests, and we provided that bubble to ensure that they had, we've given them the street so they could do that and exercise and get their voices heard. But last night something changed. The tone was different, and it turned to excessive violence. I mean, Sim Gill's district attorney building sustained over $100,000, possibly $200,000 of damage.
Wow.
And so we stepped in. We had rocks and bottles and different things thrown at our officers. That is just not acceptable. That is not peaceful protest.
And it's a situation where your officers and the judgment of some of those in the public of what your officers did was the subject of that protest. How do you respond to that? A lot of people out there saying that Gill should have charged them, that they shot somebody who was running away.
Well, I really can't get into the details of that right now because Sim Gill, our district attorney, he conducts the criminal investigation, and he found those officers to be justified in their acts. It now comes to me, and I conduct an internal affairs investigation as to our policy review. And so I can't speak to that, but I will say I trust the training that our officers get. We get the best training that in the country. I trust their judgment. And I have their backs, that they are able to make the split-second decisions to protect life in those situations.
Chief Brown, before we let you go, some quick work done on behalf of your department, as 4 protesters from last night have already been arrested due to the vandalism they took part in. Are we expecting more arrests, and what is your tactic to identify these people so quickly?
Well, I can't give away our tactics, but no. We've said from day one, I mean, this is an age of cameras and cell phones and things like that. Many of these people are identified from film and pictures and things like that. And so make no mistake, those that are going to inflict violence and do vandalism, we are going to find you and we're going to arrest you. This is not going to be tolerated in Salt Lake City. This is Salt Lake City. We're better than that here.
All right, Chief Mike Brown, Salt Lake City Police, thank you for coming in to talk with us on what is a tough week for you and your department.
Yeah, our best to you and the department as well. Keep it up, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.